Good evening, folks. This is Andy Pedraza with Special Effects Academy, and we're on the start of the week session for January 26th of 2020 in the Forex trading room. We will be going through our usual results from the prior week, our currency strength meter for the last week and the last month, our fundamental announcements coming up this week, and boy, is this week a doozy. A look at the major pairs on the daily charts, any setups we see in progress, and a few words in conclusion. Starting with the ledgers, we did have a particularly bumpy week. The only account that was really affected was the long term. We had one trade open on the pound spike last week. We did take a loss on that trade, not a huge loss, but still a loss. And we have re-entered with the pound, shorting it yet again on the pound JPY. That one is currently carrying a nice bit of profit. So again, nothing out of the ordinary. Market goes up, market goes down, we follow it along. So everything is pretty much status quo here. So a slight drawdown, not too much on the long term. For the weekend, we're on. The long term percent is slightly down. But on the positive side, we have re-entered or entered multiple trades this week that just ended. And pretty much every single one of them is carrying profit. I think a couple of the more recent ones are at break even. But there are at least 2 or 3 trades carrying a significant chunk of profit. So we're actually higher in in profit than we were last week. It just doesn't show here because the trades are still open. So we will have to wait for those to close. But of course, you folks can check the ledgers, and the if you're copy trading, you will have already seen the results in your accounts. We are carrying a significant amount of open profit, I think close to $500 as we started out the week just a couple of hours back. So this account is still significantly outperforming the other ones. And last piece, the short term, again, this account was affected by the spiking at the beginning, retracements at the beginning of last week, but we nicely recovered it. We pretty much ended the week flat, so we were losing until around Wednesday, and from Wednesday to Friday, we actually managed to recover everything that we had given up earlier in the week. So we ended the week flat, which is not a bad thing. Always better to win flat than losing. Of course, we prefer wins, but they do not come every week. This week, however, promises to be a very interesting one. So we'll see if we can change that. There's opportunities for improvement. As I said, this was a particularly bouncy week, but we overall came through all right, as we just saw in the results. And this week that is just beginning is a key week for the UK, as Brexit is scheduled to happen on Friday. So you've got January 31st as the day the UK leaves the European Union. The market already started down on the pound a couple of hours back when it opened, or 3 hours ago when it opened, and we are carrying already a nice chunk of open profit on a few pound shorts. We have to be very careful, however. Nothing is set in stone. There is no predicting what the market is going to do. Have to be cautious on entering trades. Obviously, all our management methods will be in play. We will be protecting profit as we capture it as much as we can. And of course, we will not be betting the entire bank on what may happen. We'll continue using our normal lot sizes and making sure that even if we have some sort of disaster happening where all the predictions end up wrong and the market goes backwards or what happens, we will not significantly. Emphasis is not so much on making money. Obviously, we all want to make money, but that is not our emphasis. Our emphasis is on not losing money. If we manage to control our losses, then everything else is going to be pure gravy. So we've managed to do that very well throughout the history of our public trading here. And this week is no exception. So if you are trading independently and there's no reason why I would urge you to be particularly cautious and make sure that you don't expose yourself to a big loss if things don't turn out the way you think they will. That applies to everybody, including me. So it's looking good. The week has already started very moving very strongly, which is odd for a Sunday. Usually, it takes about 24 hours for the week to get in gear. This is the exception, and for obvious reasons. The big fund these Brexit happening this week. And as I keep repeating in each of our sessions, we have set the dates for our live event. It should say this year. I apologize. I'll have to change that. This message is a carryover from last year. But we have set the dates for our event this year, April 29th, 30th, and May 1st of 2020 in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Details are on our website. We really hope to see all of you there. It's going to be amazing. And with that, we move into our relative strength meter for the last 30 days in the last week. We can see that there has been a lot of winners and losers in the charts for the monthly. So the Aussie, the Euro, the Kiwi have been the clear losers. Winners, we can say that the big winners remain the metals. Silver and gold have outperformed the rest of the market when it comes to gains. So silver up, gold is up for the 30 days. And as to currencies that have been winning for the last month, the Swiss franc has been the big mover. It's outperformed everything except for the metals. The yen has also recovered quite nicely. The dollar is probably third in line, and then we pretty much have bit of flat with the pound. The pound has gained against some, lost against others. I should have added the euro as one of the bigger losers as well, closely followed by the CAD. However, the movements have not been too deep along the currencies. We haven't had any significant bigger movements in the monthly, except for the Australian and New Zealand dollars. On the weekly, we have a completely different picture. We see the metals outperforming. Silver and gold were up for the week. The Aussie was a loser. The CAD was a loser. Euro was a loser. So we have a nice slew of, and the Swiss was a loser. So we've got some very nice movements, and we have taken advantage of these mostly. The pound was the big winner for the week. And again, we did get caught on the wrong side of that movement at the beginning of the week, but we recovered nicely towards the end. So no complaints there. This is normal. You cannot catch every single movement and be on the right side of it, but risk control is going to make sure that your losses are kept small, and then your winners, you let them run as far as they can. The yen in particular did a very nice recovery, and we were on the right side of that one. So that helped us make our week, as well as the pound weakening towards the end of the week. And of course, the euro. We've been short on the euro for quite a while. We're not changing that approach, and we are making some very nice profit on euro Swiss and euro dollar in particular. We took a nice chunk of profit, and then we re-entered these trades, and we're carrying profit on them yet again. So that's working out quite nicely. The dollar has also been a good profit maker for us in the last week. So we can see those movements weren't too deep. We're at 1.63% volatility. And some of that is due to the metals, not necessarily the currencies. But again, we're looking quite well on all fronts, so no complaints there. Things are working. Okay, so the calendar for this week is not a very busy calendar. We only have 3 fundamentals that we will be live trading, but one of them is Brexit. So the Brexit deadline does expire at the end of the week. It says here Thursday, January 30th. That is correct, Thursday, U.S. Eastern time, but that's really the 31st of January in the UK. So just a clarification there, but it will obviously start kicking in even before that deadline as things begin to happen in the UK. Wednesday, we have the Fed interest rate decision. So that's a major U.S. funding. We currently have an interest rate at 1.75%. Not sure that the Fed is planning to do anything or that anyone expects the Fed to be doing anything this early in the year, but you never know. I think the consensus is going to be no change. It didn't appear in the chart when I pulled it today, but I wouldn't expect an interest rate change this early based on what we've seen in the end of 2019. January 30th, we do have the Bank of England announcing their interest rate decision as well. Consensus is no change. I agree with that, but it's still going to be a tricky fundy just based on the fact that in less than 24 hours after that decision, Brexit kicks in. So it's going to be a very interesting day, Thursday. So we'll definitely be trading that live. Brexit, we won't be trading live per se. Simply because it's not a set event. Well, they do have a time. I think it's 11 a.m. GMT on Friday is when they're going to be doing this, or somewhere along those lines. But I mean, we'll know way before that the lay of the land. So I would expect the market to move on Brexit way before the actual deadline expires, as soon as they announce that it's definitely happening, and ring Big Ben or whatever it is they're going to be doing at the appropriate time. So again, we'll be tracking that very closely this week, and of course you guys should do the same if you're doing your own trading. The story with oil. We can see that oil completely collapsed last week. Every single day was a down day. It broke out of the channel it was following. It broke towards the downside. So we have the lowest that oil has been since back in October. So we have a multi-month low. What's that? October, November, December, a 4-month low, or at least a 3-month low. Dates of these movements, but we have a very significant low in oil as situations in the Middle East have calmed down after the whole Iran thing. Bear in mind, we also have the fears of a pandemic starting in China and quickly spreading to the rest of the world. We've already had confirmed cases in Europe, in the United States, I think even in South America. So may heat up in that regard. Anything global in nature will affect the market, so we need to keep a close eye on that. But for now, oil is in a complete collapse. We'll have to see if it does break the bottom of the chart. It's certainly heading in that direction. A drop of oil price below 50 would be a very memorable event, something that hasn't happened in the visible portion of this chart. So we'll continue tracking that. In your chart, the euro is in a complete collapse. It has broken that upward trend line it had been very lazily following. It's broken past a couple of levels of support since then and continues heading down. We've been making quite a bit of profit on this pair, and we still have an open trade already carrying more than 100 pips of profit yet again on this pair. And we'll keep tracking that for as long as it keeps moving. Dollar Brexit happening this week. You can see the spike that it did towards the beginning of the week. It just went up for 2 or 3 candles and made quite a decent movement before turning around Thursday, Friday. Ending Friday not anywhere near the start of the week, but much closer than earlier. And again, I am expecting that the pound will be thanks to Brexit. So we've got an open trade on this one. Entered very late last week. It is at break even right now. So we'll see how it evolves between now and probably the next 24 hours. Will give us a pretty good indication of what to expect as the week progresses. USD GPU around, and as mentioned, we made quite a bit of profit back on the yen pairs that fixed our week both on the short term and intermediate term accounts. I would expect this one. Actually, I really don't expect much from the USD JPY. Both currencies are gaining strength, so this one might go sideways. I don't think I'm trading this one actively right now on any of the accounts, so I am waiting for it to do a break of support. I don't think it will. So I think this one is more a sideways pair for a while than anything else. If it does break the support at the 109, I will obviously change my tune. But I think for now, I'm going to just be observing this pair. He's going to be doing the exact opposite. So while the yen recovers some strength, the CAD, even though the CAD is not weakening, it does look to be weakening in this chart. It's weakening against the dollar. If we look at some of the other charts, that is actually coming back. What that is telling me is that there might be a really good opportunity for this one to give us a trip towards the bottom, as it seems to be a straggler. Something would need to happen to the dollar, however, and we don't try to predict the market here. We're just trying to ride the movement. So this is one I'm going to keep an eye on, but I'm not looking for any trades until I see some action. I would expect this might be affected by Brexit, of course, since the Swiss franc is a safe haven currency. But I think we've seen the bottom. Unless it breaks support again, I think we're probably going to have an opportunity to trade this one up towards parity with the dollar yet again. It seems to like bouncing between 1 and 0.9697 or thereabouts. You can see just in this chart, 1, 2, 3, 4 tests of round trip test of support resistance between the 1 and the 0.97. So if that continues to play out, it's just a very wide sideways channel, then we're going to have about 300 pips of opportunity to be looking forward trading this one up. But I want to see that move confirmed before we jump into it. This one, we're at profit. We're trading it down. It finally broke that trend line on Friday. It looks like it's continuing to move in the same direction. So this is one I wouldn't be surprised if we see a trip all the way to the bottom at the 0.67. That's only about 125 pips from where it is right now. So we're not looking for much. We're just looking for a little bit to add to our profit taking. This is probably not going to be a it's just going to be another 100, 150 pips before it turns around and does something else. But again, that's 125 pips we don't have in our coffers. We'll happily take them. Kiwi dollar, same thing. I am expecting a break of support at some point. The question is when. We're already trading it down. We're carrying profit on that. Actually, we took profit last week, and then we re-entered this same trend. We're short. We're looking for a cross of the Kumo, of the Ichimoku cloud, and preferably a piercing of that trend line that's rising from the very bottom. I'm not sure if we're going to have enough strength to see this pair go all the way to the bottom, but it wouldn't surprise me if it did. So this is another one with a very nice potential 400 or so pips to be taken. I mentioned last of weeks, but it did come back down quite nicely. We captured that movement as well. It's not that far from the bottom of the chart, but I would expect, in general, Canadian strength, Aussie weakness. So this is a key pair to continue trading down. Swiss is probably our biggest winner. We took profit on the Euro Swiss when it did that retrace on Wednesday. We can see it spiked up. We took profit, and then we re-entered the trade the next day or on Friday, I forget when. But we're already carrying profit on that re-entry as well. You can see that this is the classic breakout. It's broken a level of support it hadn't broken in the entire visible portion of this chart. I think we have to go out to the weekly to see the last time it pierced a 108. It's finally done that. It's 100 pips lower right now. It's continuing to move. So right now, it just doesn't have a bottom on the daily. There is no support on stop this one. We have to move out to the weekly, which I have. If you follow any of my daily, twice daily live trading sessions, I usually zoom out to the weekly just to look at the targets and all that. So we've got about 120, 150 maybe more pips till it hits the weekly resistance, and then it still has room to continue moving down. The euro is just in a complete collapse and is gaining strength. So this is another one of these pairs that is outperforming. Euro pound, struggling, battling it out. So that's why it looks very sideways. I am expecting at some point the pound to lose more than the euro. So this one should shoot up. Not saying that it's going to go all the way up to the 93 at the top, but it wouldn't surprise me either. So this is one I have been keeping a very close eye on to look for the opportunities. Hasn't happened yet, but we will be focusing on this one and all the other pound pairs as this week evolves and Brexit on Friday gets closer. I've said it, I'll say it again. The euro is in a complete collapse right now, and the yen finally regained strength. We can see those nice, long, bearish candles all throughout last week. We captured most profit. We still have an open trade on the euro JPY, and it's looking amazingly fantastic. I think this is another one where we're looking for at least 400 more pips, maybe 500 before all is said and done. I'll point out that it finally broke that trend line. We'll have to see how it starts the week, but it finally broke that trend line that it had been reluctant to cross since it started back in August. So that's a very significant event. Obviously, we need next levels of support on its way down, but it is looking very good. Canadian weakness, we did have that spike again on Wednesday. That happened on pretty much all the euro pairs. They went into euro strength for whatever reason on Wednesday. I really didn't follow up and find out why. It just did, and then it just went back all the way to the bottom. So it's sitting on support once more. A whole lot of room on this daily chart to continue moving, less than 100 pips, but it does have further levels of support, further targets if we zoom out to the weekly, which I often do. So this is another one. We have an open trade. We're carrying profit, and we'll continue to ride it so long as it continues dropping. Hopefully, it will give us a break of the bottom of the chart sometime soon. Entered this trade on the long term after it bounced off of resistance at the top. We also have a trade open on the intermediate term. This is probably going to be a very key pair this week. We're looking for that trend line break to happen. We're looking for Brexit to happen and perhaps drive this one down all the way to the bottom of the chart if we get lucky. That's probably a little bit of a stretch for it to drop whatever that is, 800, almost 2,000, well, 1,500 pips is what it is to the bottom. I think that's a bit of a stretch for that to happen, but you never know. If panic ensues in the UK as a result of Brexit, this would be one of the faster moving pairs simply because the yen is already gaining strength. The pound is going to lose strength, and the yen is the safe haven currency for the UK. So that gives it three reasons for this question is how far. Aussie JPY, again, yen strength coming back to the market this week that just ended. We do have an open trade on this one as well in the intermediate, and we're carrying a nice chunk of profit. Again, if you're tracking our intermediate term account, if you're with the copy trader, your account should be looking very, very nice as the week begins. You should be carrying quite a lot of profit. We've already moved some of the stop losses to in profit, so you'll see that as well in your account. So again, I'm happy to be here to do this for myself and for you guys. Euro New Zealand finally gave us a drop. I did not take advantage of it. This is one of those fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me situations. At this point, I'm not going to be re-entering the Euro New Zealand unless it does break the underlying levels. We do have a turnaround, and this may be the week that that it does drop the extra bit and takes us in. I may put in a pending order to that effect somewhere around the 166 area, but about 75 pips below where it currently is. I still feel that this one has room to drop, but it has been rather choppy for the last 3-4 weeks. Pound Canadian took us out on the long-term account. You can see those double bullish candles Tuesday, Wednesday. That definitely killed us. So we didn't lose much. It did hit the resistance level there at the top, and that was our get out. That was our stop loss. So we got taken out. I'm not going to be re-entering it on the long term just now. If it does break the trend line, I will. I think it's a very good long-term trade, but for now, I'm going to wait it out. I did enter the pound JPY, as I mentioned, and that one's already recovering very nicely what we lost in this one trade. And last but not least, we have, and this one is particularly interesting to me. We have a pending order that's close to triggering on the intermediate term account. We did take a huge chunk of profit on that last drop a couple of weeks back. So and this week, with all that's going to be happening, I would expect this one to drop. And like I said, we already have the pending order in place to take us in. So it's just a matter of waiting it out. Setups in progress as the week begins. I should have that UK square flashing, blinking. That obviously is going to be the pair, the currency to watch this week, all the pound pairs. So this is a critical week as the Brexit deadline runs out yet again for the UK, except that this time it does seem to be happening. The dollar pairs, the dollar continues to gain despite all the impeachment fears with President Trump and the pandemic that has started in China. I've seen reports saying that the number of people that are actually sick with this virus, I'm hearing numbers of up to 100,000. The official numbers are in the low thousands, 2,000 people infected, this or that. But there are very credible reports coming out that the real number is closer to 100,000. And if that's the case, then the word pandemic is definitely the word to use. And we've already had cases of infected travelers in Europe, in the US, and in other parts of the world. So this may be a big thing. Not sure how big it's going to get, but obviously a fear of a global pandemic will at some point very much affect the market. So that has to be taken into account. But the dollar continues to gain, as we can see on pretty much all the dollar charts, with the exception of the USD JPY. Everything else seems to be loving the dollar right now, and we have multiple open trades that are carrying profit in that regard. With the fears out of the UK on Brexit, the dollar is sure to catch a break as well. So keep an eye on the dollar. Canadian pairs, as I mentioned, the CAD is definitely still moving into strength. It started the week out poorly, but pretty much regained it, except against the dollar. So the CAD is definitely not giving up the fight, and probably will give us some good opportunities as well. The yen, we saw that the yen is finally making a comeback after an extended period of weakness that for the life of me, I can't figure out why. It just did. So the market does what the market does. We're only here to catch the ride. So it looks like the yen is finally coming back into strength. And we're already in multiple trades on the yen, and we're at profit, so no complaints there either. But I think we're going to have a good chance to make even more. And last but not least, the euro. I've said it all throughout this session. The euro is collapsing. It's breaking support on prior price ranges that have held for months, perhaps even more than a year. It's finally breaking them and staying below them. So this is what we look for when we're trading breakouts, and I do very much trade the breakouts. I am a trend follower, and I need a trend to be happening in order to make money. And these support or resistance breaks pretty much confirm that a trend is in progress. So you should also be focusing on any currency that is making breakouts. That's where the big money in trading is going to be. That's going to be the end of our setups and pretty much our presentation. Final words, and I always try to give a few words of, I guess I'll call it wisdom at this point. This time I'm going to focus on some of the psychology behind trading. And this is not something that I'm saying. You can find this in very magnificent trading books such as Jack Schwager's Market Wizard series, Michael Cavell's Trend Following, and a bunch of others. And it is that the market gives you exactly what you want, even when you don't know what it is you want. And people often don't understand. We all have our secret wishes that are coming from our internal psychology or subconscious. And this is why mindset is so important when trading. If you come into the market with a victim mentality, and I see this a lot these days, the 1% are killing us. Yeah, the Republicans are bad. No, the liberals are bad. That is a victim mentality. You need to own your lives. You need to own your future. I'm not saying that these things don't matter. They most definitely do. But at the end of the day, it's far more important to your well-being, to your progress, to your profit, what it is you are doing as opposed to what somebody off in Washington is doing. I'm not saying that's not important. It most definitely is, but it's not the most important thing. And your mindset is what's going to flip the market to one side or the other. If you come into the market thinking you're a victim, the market is going to prove you right. It's going to deliver what you're asking for, and you're going to lose simply because you came in with the idea that the chips are stacked, the cards are stacked against you or whatever. If you come at it from another angle, the market is probably going to be your best friend. Again, don't let the market take advantage of you. Take all the precautions. That's why we do risk management, trade management, and all this. And there's 100 different ways you can come into the market. If you're an adrenaline junkie, you're going to get all the thrills that you want and then some out of the market. It's going to give you the roller coaster ride of your life. So pay close attention to this. You decide what the market is going to be giving you just based on how you approach it. It's not something I can cover in 10 minutes or even 10 hours, but it's something you should definitely explore. Know yourself. Know what kind of a person you are, what kind of a trader you are, and adapt accordingly. There's many ways to, I guess, mitigate where our mindset is in between now and changing it to something better, just so you don't get eaten up alive. And this slide to the deck now for several weeks. I am trying to see how I can help more people. And I am looking for your ideas. As I said, 2019 was probably my best year of the decade. And not bragging, simple statement of fact, but how can I help more people? I don't know. I'm asking everybody, and I'm asking very humbly, how do you see me reaching out to and helping more people? Email me any suggestions at trader@specialeffectsacademy.com. And that is the end of our start of the week presentation for January 26th. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, and thank you very much. That's a wrap. I will be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. for our first live trading session of the week. Have a great week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.